The massive Imperial diplomatic vessel emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. Its gleaming silver hull reflected the distant sunlight, creating a spectacular display that would have impressed most species in the galaxy. However, the humans watching it through their military-grade sensors were more interested in analyzing its weapons capabilities, or rather, its lack thereof. "Another peaceful ship," muttered Admiral Thomas from the bridge of the Earth Defense Force flagship Guardian. He had been in service long enough to know that peaceful ships could become threats in an instant. That's why 12 heavily armed human warships surrounded the Imperial vessel, their weapon systems primed but not locked on. A subtle message that the humans understood both diplomacy and warfare. The Imperial ship's captain, a tall blue-skinned being named High Captain Blue, stood confused on his bridge. In his 300 years of diplomatic service, he had never seen such a militaristic response to a peaceful greeting. The Empire had performed this ceremony thousands of times with other species, and usually they were met with excitement, wonder, or at worst, nervous curiosity. "High Captain," one of his crew members called out, "I'm detecting energy readings from their escorts. Their weapon yields, they're beyond our measurement scales." Blue dismissed this with a wave of his hand. "Impossible. No civilized species needs such weapons. Your sensors must be malfunctioning." He straightened his ceremonial robes, adorned with the symbols of 10,000 years of peaceful imperial expansion. "Prepare the greeting hall. Ambassador White will meet their representatives." The humans, however, had different protocols. Before any imperial delegation could board their ships, teams of specialized scanners checked every inch of the imperial vessel. The Empire had never experienced such thoroughness, such suspicion, in all its history of peaceful first contacts. Ambassador White waited in the Imperial ship's Grand Hall, a massive chamber decorated with artworks showing the Empire's peaceful integration of thousands of species. When the human delegation finally arrived, he was struck by their appearance. Unlike the robed Imperial diplomats, the humans wore standardized uniforms with rank insignias. Even their diplomats carried themselves like soldiers. "Welcome," Ambassador White said, spreading his 4 arms in the traditional greeting of peace. "I am honored to represent the Galactic Empire, a civilization spanning half the galaxy, bringing peace and prosperity to all species we encounter." Admiral Thomas, leading the human delegation, stepped forward. His weathered face and alert eyes spoke of someone who had seen combat. "We appreciate your peaceful intentions, Ambassador. However, we should be clear from the start. Earth and its colonies are not looking to be absorbed into any empire, peaceful or otherwise." This directness startled the Imperial delegation. Most species were honored to be invited into the Empire. Ambassador White tried again. "Perhaps you misunderstand. We offer advanced technology, cultural exchange, and protection." "Protection?" Admiral Thomas interrupted, raising an eyebrow. "Your ship has no real weapon systems. Your shields are more suited for deflecting space debris than actual attacks. What exactly would you be protecting us from?" The Imperial delegation exchanged confused looks. Ambassador White smiled patiently. "In our enlightened galaxy, weapons of war are unnecessary. We have evolved beyond such primitive needs." Admiral Thomas shook his head slowly. "With all due respect, Ambassador, that's not evolution. That's vulnerability. Humanity learned through countless wars that peace isn't maintained by being defenseless. It's maintained by being so well prepared for war that no one dares to break the peace." As if to emphasize his point, a distant flash caught everyone's attention through the hall's massive windows. A human destroyer had just eliminated a large asteroid with frightening precision, its energy weapons turning the space rock into dust. "That," Admiral Thomas said quietly, "was just one low-powered shot from our smallest class of warship. We're not trying to threaten you, Ambassador. We're trying to warn you. The galaxy isn't as peaceful as you think, and if you don't learn to defend yourselves properly, someone far less friendly than us will eventually take advantage of that." The Imperial delegation stood in shocked silence. In all their history, no species had ever rejected their offer of peace, let alone suggested that peace itself was maintained through strength. As they watched another asteroid disappear under the humans' weapons test, Ambassador White began to wonder if perhaps, just perhaps, the Empire had something to learn from these strange, warrior-like people. What none of them realized was that this meeting would change the course of galactic history forever. 3 days after the first contact, the Imperial delegation sat in Earth's main conference room in New Geneva. Their faces showed growing concern as they watched the historical footage playing on the large screen before them. The video showed tanks rolling across battlefields, ships firing across oceans, and aircraft engaging in deadly aerial combat. "This is just from one of our world wars," explained General Miller, a stocky man with gray hair who headed Earth's military history division. "We've had thousands of conflicts throughout our history. Each one taught us something new about warfare and survival." Ambassador White's pale face had grown even paler. But why show us these horrible things? The Empire has known only peace for 10,000 years. We came to share culture, art, and knowledge. "This is our culture," General Miller said firmly. "This is our art. This is our knowledge." He pressed a button, and the screen showed modern space battles from humanity's recent colonial conflicts. "Everything we build, every advancement we make, comes from our need to survive and protect ourselves." The Imperial scientists in the delegation whispered among themselves, taking notes frantically. One of them, Dr. Green, finally spoke up. "Your ship's designs make more sense now. We wondered why you built them like armored fortresses instead of the elegant vessels we use." "Because our ships are actually meant for combat," Admiral Thomas replied from his seat at the end of the table. "Not for show." The meeting was interrupted as Lieutenant Brown rushed into the room. "Sir, we've detected Imperial ships entering the Proxima Centauri colony system. A lot of them." Admiral Thomas turned to Ambassador White. "Care to explain?" The ambassador looked confused. "It must be the Cultural Integration Fleet. They always follow first contact to share our peaceful ways with new species. They carry no weapons. No weapons you recognize as weapons." Admiral Thomas cut in sharply. He pressed his comm button. "This is Admiral Thomas. All fleets to battle stations. Condition red." Through the conference room's windows, they could see ships rising from Earth's surface and emerging from hidden bases on the moon. Within minutes, hundreds of human warships filled the space around Earth. Ambassador White stood up, his 4 hands raised in panic. "Please, you don't understand. The integration fleet means no harm. They simply perform the ceremony of peaceful integration. It's tradition." "Let me show you something about traditions," General Miller said. He switched the screen to a live feed from Proxima Centauri. The Imperial Integration Fleet, consisting of 50 beautiful ships covered in ceremonial lights and colors, approached the human colony. What happened next shocked the Imperial delegation to their core. Instead of the colony's lights dimming in submission as they did on other worlds, massive defense platforms emerged from hidden positions around the planet. The human ships, rather than fleeing from the larger Imperial fleet, moved into perfect combat formations. "This is Commander River of the Proxima Defense Force to the approaching Imperial fleet," a calm voice broadcast on all channels. "You are entering restricted space. Reverse course immediately." The Imperial fleet continued advancing, their ceremonial lights pulsing in patterns meant to inspire awe and acceptance. They have performed this ceremony countless times. Surely these humans would understand once they witnessed the Empire's grand display. "Final warning," Commander River's voice came again. "We do not recognize your authority over our colony. Reverse course, or we will demonstrate why humans don't appreciate uninvited guests." Ambassador White jumped from his seat. "Please, you must let me contact them. They don't understand." A single human destroyer broke formation and fired what appeared to be a warning shot. The energy beam passed half a kilometer in front of the Imperial fleet. The shot, designed to miss, still managed to demonstrate the humans' weapons capability. The beam's power was enough to create a visible distortion in space itself. The Imperial ships froze in place, their ceremonial lights flickering in confusion. For the first time in 10,000 years, the integration fleet faced resistance they couldn't ignore. Now they're learning. Admiral Thomas said quietly, "Ambassador, I suggest you contact your fleet and explain that humans don't respond well to forced integration. We try to warn you peacefully. Don't make us warn you any other way." The Imperial delegation watched in stunned silence as their mighty integration fleet, the pride of their peaceful empire, hung motionless in space, faced with something they had never encountered before, a species that not only could fight back, but was eager to demonstrate exactly how well they could do it. The Imperial High Council was not used to failure. For 10,000 years, every species had accepted their peaceful rule. The humans' resistance at Proxima Centauri was more than just unexpected, it was unacceptable. "This cannot stand," declared Council Leader Gold, his ceremonial robes shimmering in the council chamber's soft light. "We must show them the true majesty of the Empire. Prepare the Grand Fleet." Ambassador White, who had returned from Earth to report, stepped forward. "My leaders, please listen. The humans are different. Their warships at Proxima Centauri were merely primitive displays of force," interrupted Council Member Silver. "Our Grand Fleet has never failed to inspire submission through its glory. We will show these humans true power." None of them understood what Ambassador White had learned during his time with humans. None of them wanted to believe his warnings. 3 days later, the Empire's Grand Fleet emerged near Mars. 500 of the largest ships ever built in the galaxy, each one 15 kilometers long, approached the red planet. Their golden hulls gleamed in the sunlight, ceremonial lights pulsing in complex patterns meant to demonstrate the Empire's superiority. The Mars Defense Command watched them approach. In the main control room, Commander Hall stood calmly, drinking his coffee. "How many civilians still need to evacuate?" he asked. "None, sir," his lieutenant replied. "We completed the evacuation 6 hours ago. Operation Mousetrap is ready." Commander Hall nodded. "Send the warning. Let's do this by the book." The Imperial Grand Fleet received a simple message. "This is your only warning. Mars is a sovereign human colony. Withdraw immediately." The Imperial Admiral laughed at the message. His fleet was the pride of the Empire, never defeated in its ceremonial role of displaying Imperial might. He gave the order to advance. That's when everything went wrong for the Empire. A single human destroyer, the HMS Sparta, decloaked directly in the middle of the Imperial formation. It was tiny compared to the Imperial ships, barely half a kilometer long. The Imperial Admiral was about to broadcast a speech about peaceful submission when the Sparta opened fire. But it didn't fire weapons. Instead, it fired data. The destroyer's electronic warfare suite, designed to fight other human ships, tore through the Imperial ship's primitive computer defenses. Within seconds, half the Imperial fleet lost power as their systems crashed. Their ceremonial shields, designed to sparkle prettily in space, offered no protection against this type of attack. What are they doing?" the Imperial Admiral demanded as his own ship's lights began to flicker. The Sparta's commander, Captain Ford, opened a channel to the entire Imperial fleet. "We studied your ships during our first contact," he said calmly. "Your technology is impressive, but you never designed it for actual combat. Allow me to demonstrate why that was a mistake." The Sparta fired a single missile. The Imperial ships, their sensors designed for peaceful navigation, didn't even register it as a threat. The missile split into thousands of smaller warheads, each one targeting the now exposed engine sections of the Imperial ships. The results were devastating. Ships that had never seen combat began losing power. Others started drifting, their elegant designs now working against them as they collided with each other. The Imperial Admiral watched in horror as his mighty fleet was reduced to chaos by a single human ship. "This is impossible," he shouted. "We are the Imperial Grand Fleet. We have never been defeated. You've never actually fought anyone. Captain Ford replied. There's a difference. The remaining functional Imperial ships tried to coordinate a response, but centuries of peace had left them without any real combat protocols. They had no idea how to fight as a group, how to protect their vulnerable systems, or how to counter electronic warfare. Then the rest of the human fleet arrived. 20 destroyers emerged from hiding spots around Mars, their weapons already locked on targets. The Imperial Admiral finally understood. They had walked into a trap. The humans had let them come this far deliberately. This is your final chance. Commander Hall broadcast from Mars. Withdraw now, and we will help your damaged ships leave. Stay, and we'll be forced to demonstrate why we warned you to run. The Imperial Grand Fleet, pride of a peaceful empire, retreated for the first time in its history. As they limped away from Mars, the Imperial Admiral sent a message to his leadership. The humans didn't just defeat us. They were playing with us. Back on Mars, Commander Hall finished his now cold coffee. Send word to Earth, he ordered. Tell them the Empire just learned their first lesson about war. Let's hope they're smart enough to learn from it. The Imperial High Council chamber had lost its usual sparkle. The ornate decorations seemed dim, and the usual peaceful music was silent. Council Leader Gold stared at the reports from the Mars disaster, his hands shaking. 300 ships, disabled by one human vessel, he whispered. How is this possible? The emergency meeting was interrupted by alarms. A human ship had appeared in the heart of Imperial space, right outside their capital world's defense perimeter. But before they could react, it vanished. Then another appeared near their biggest shipyard. It too disappeared. They're testing our response times, said General Stone, a human military advisor they had reluctantly accepted after the Mars incident. And you're failing badly. Council Member Silver turned to him angrily. You said you would help us. Instead, your ships appear and disappear at will in our territory. We are helping you, General Stone replied calmly. We're showing you how vulnerable you are. Your enemy won't give you such gentle warnings. Another alarm sounded. This time, 5 human ships had appeared near the Empire's main fuel production facility. They launched what looked like missiles, then vanished. The missiles turned out to be harmless probes, but the message was clear. The facility could have been destroyed in seconds. Stop this, Council Leader Gold demanded. This is not how civilized species behave. War isn't civilized, General Stone said, standing up. Let me show you something. He activated a holographic display showing an Imperial patrol fleet. As they watched, human ships appeared from nowhere, their stealth technology making them invisible until the last second. The patrol fleet, trained only in peaceful missions, didn't even have time to send a distress signal before the humans disabled their engines and disappeared again. That happened 10 minutes ago, General Stone explained. Your ships are fine. We just shut down their power. But if we were your enemy, they would be destroyed. Another alarm. Another human ship appearing and vanishing. The council members were starting to sweat. You fight without honor, accused Council Member Bronze. You hide in the shadows. You strike without warning. We fight to win, General Stone corrected him. Honor is for parades. In real combat, you do whatever it takes to protect your people. The next report made the council fall silent. A single human stealth ship had penetrated their capital's defenses and taken pictures of the council chamber itself through its windows. The images appeared on their screens. They could see themselves from just minutes ago, completely unaware they were being watched. Impossible, whispered Council Leader Gold. Our detection systems are the most advanced in the galaxy. Advanced for peaceful times, General Stone said. Useless in war. Your sensors scan for navigation hazards and lost ships. Ours scan for threats that don't want to be found. Another alarm. This time, human ships had appeared simultaneously at 20 different vital Imperial installations. They launched more probe missiles, then vanished again. How? Demanded Council Member Silver. How do you coordinate such precise attacks? Practice, General Stone replied simply. We've been fighting ourselves for thousands of years. Everything we build, every tactic we use, comes from real combat experience. Not ceremonies, not parades, real, brutal warfare. The council chamber fell silent as this truth sank in. Their mighty empire, built on peace and cooperation, was helpless against a species that had mastered the art of war. What? Council leader Gold's voice trembled. What do you want from us? We want you to survive, General Stone answered. The galaxy isn't as peaceful as you think. Somewhere out there, someone is looking at your empire and seeing an easy target. We're not your enemy. We're trying to wake you up before a real enemy finds you. As if to emphasize his point, another human ship appeared right outside the council chamber's windows. It hung there for a moment, its weapons clearly visible but not powered up. Then it disappeared, leaving behind a simple message floating in space. Lesson 4 complete. Ready for Lesson 5. The Imperial Council finally understood. The humans weren't just fighting them. They were teaching them. Each demonstration of human military power was a lesson in survival. Very well, Council Leader Gold said quietly. Teach us, please. General Stone nodded. First lesson of real warfare. Never assume peace will last forever. Now let's talk about proper planetary defense systems. The Imperial training vessel shook violently as another simulated hit struck its shields. In the command center, Captain Purple struggled with controls that felt completely foreign to his hands. Enemy ships approaching from Vector 3. His sensor officer shouted, still not used to using military terms. They're using that flanking maneuver again. Remember your training, said Commander Baker, the human instructor watching from the back of the bridge. What's the first rule of space combat? There is no up or down in space, Captain Purple recited, sweat forming on his blue forehead. He quickly ordered his ship to rotate, using the three-dimensional battlefield to his advantage for the first time. The simulation was one of hundreds running throughout the Empire. After their disastrous attempts to show force against the humans, the Empire had finally accepted their help in learning real military tactics. It wasn't going well. In another part of the Imperial capital, Admiral Thomas watched as Imperial engineers struggled to upgrade their ship systems. The elegant golden hulls were being replaced with practical armor. Ceremonial lights gave way to point defense turrets. Beauty surrendered to necessity. They're trying, Lieutenant Ross reported to him. But it's like teaching art to someone who's never seen colors. They don't even understand the basics of combat engineering. A massive explosion rocked the shipyard. An Imperial engineer had accidentally crossed the wrong power lines, causing a generator to overload. No one was hurt. Human safety protocols had been installed first, but it showed how far they had to go. Keep at it, Admiral Thomas ordered. They need to learn. Back in the simulation, Captain Purple's ship was now surrounded by enemy vessels. These weren't the simple training scenarios they'd started with. These were real human battle tactics being tested against Imperial crews. Multiple torpedo launches detected. The weapons officer screamed, still not maintaining proper military calm. They're everywhere. Use the point defense grid, Commander Baker reminded them calmly. Remember the targeting priorities we discussed. Captain Purple tried. He really tried. But centuries of peaceful operation had left the Imperial military without the basic instincts needed for combat. His ship exploded in the simulation, marking their 15th failure of the day. Again, Commander Baker said firmly, real enemies won't give you second chances. Again. In the Imperial High Council chamber, now converted into a war room, General Stone showed the latest progress reports to Council Leader Gold. Your people are struggling, he said honestly, but they're learning. Look here. The display showed an Imperial patrol that had successfully detected and tracked a cloaked human vessel. It was the first time they'd managed this feat. One success in 1,000 attempts, Council Member Silver said bitterly. How did we become so weak? You're not weak, General Stone corrected. You're inexperienced. There's a difference. Weakness can't be fixed. Inexperience can. Another report came in. An Imperial engineering team had successfully installed a new shield generator without any accidents. Small progress, but progress nonetheless. "Watch this," General Stone said, switching the display to a training exercise. An Imperial light cruiser, newly refitted with human-designed weapons, faced off against a simulated enemy fleet. Instead of trying to show off or look impressive, it did something unprecedented in Imperial history. It fought back effectively. The cruiser's captain, a young officer named Red, had actually studied human military history. He used asteroids for cover, managed his ship's energy effectively, and even successfully destroyed 2 enemy vessels before being disabled. "That's the first Imperial officer to last more than 5 minutes against our training programs," General Stone said proudly. "He's getting it. Others will follow." Council Leader Gold watched the replay carefully. "We look so different now. Our ships used to be beautiful." "Beautiful ships don't save lives," General Stone replied. "Effective ships do." As if to prove his point, alarms suddenly blared throughout the capital. A real unidentified vessel had appeared at the edge of the system. Before the humans could react, an Imperial patrol ship did something amazing. It followed proper first contact protocols, raised shields, and moved to a tactically sound position. In the training simulator, Captain Purple's crew cheered as they finally completed a successful defense scenario. In the shipyards, Imperial engineers correctly installed their first weapons system without human supervision. In the war room, Council Leader Gold watched his civilization slowly transform from a beautiful, vulnerable empire into something that could actually defend itself. "We're learning," he said quietly. "We're finally learning." The Imperial archives, once filled with peaceful music and gentle lights, now displayed something very different. On massive screens spanning the walls, footage of Earth's military history played continuously. Imperial citizens stood in shocked silence, watching scenes of warfare spanning centuries. "These records were provided by the humans," announced Chief Archivist Black to the gathered crowd. "This is why they are different. This is why they knew what we didn't." The footage showed ancient battles with swords and spears, then moved to gunpowder weapons, tanks, aircraft, and finally, space combat. Each era revealed new lessons in warfare that the Empire had never learned. In the viewing chamber, Ambassador White watched with new understanding. "They tried to warn us," he said to the Imperial military officers beside him. "When they said run, they weren't threatening us. They were trying to protect us." On another screen, human nuclear submarines prowled deep oceans, demonstrating stealth tactics that the Empire had never considered. World War footage showed massive armies clashing across continents. Space battles between human colonies demonstrated combat maneuvers that made Imperial officers gasp. "Look at this," General Stone pointed to a particular scene. "This battle from our third colony war. See how the ships use the planet's gravity to slingshot their missiles. That's why we kept appearing and disappearing in your territory. We were showing you what real enemies might do." The Imperial officers took frantic notes. Centuries of peaceful expansion had left them without any real understanding of combat tactics. Now they were trying to learn millennia of warfare in a matter of months. In another section of the archives, Imperial engineers studied human weapon designs. They were shocked by the efficiency, the redundant systems, the damage control measures. Everything human ships carried had a backup, and those backups had backups. "Why 3 different targeting systems?" asked an Imperial technician. "Because 2 might fail," replied Lieutenant Ross. "And in real combat, you don't get second chances." The displays showed more: human ground combat tactics, urban warfare, guerrilla strategies, electronic warfare, and psychological operations. The Empire had never imagined such things existed. A new alert appeared on the main screen. An Imperial patrol vessel, now equipped with human-designed sensors, had detected an unknown ship near their borders. Instead of approaching peacefully as they once would have, the patrol followed the new protocols. "Watch," General Stone said proudly. They're finally getting it. The patrol ship maintained its distance, scanned for weapons, and positioned itself for a tactical advantage. When the unknown vessel turned out to be peaceful traders, the Imperial crew still maintained proper security procedures throughout the encounter. 3 months ago, they would have invited the unknown ship to a welcome ceremony. Admiral Thomas noted. Now they're actually thinking about defense. The archives displays shifted to show human children in schools, learning about military history and basic tactical thinking. This shocked the Imperial observers more than the battle footage. "You teach war to your young?" asked Council Member Silver. "We teach them to understand conflict," corrected General Stone. "To prevent it when possible, to survive it when necessary. Look at this." He showed footage of human diplomatic negotiations, where understanding warfare had led to better peace treaties. The Empire began to understand. Humans weren't just warriors. They were survivors who had learned to use the threat of war to maintain peace. In the main viewing hall, the displays showed something new. Imperial ships, newly retrofitted with human design systems, successfully defending against simulated attacks. The watching crowd cheered. For the first time, they saw their civilization learning to protect itself. "We were like children," Ambassador White realized, playing at being powerful without understanding real strength. "No," Admiral Thomas corrected him kindly. "You were like someone who grew up in complete safety, never learning about danger. Now you're learning. That's not shame, that's wisdom." The screen showed more human history, wars, peace treaties, technological advancement, and cultural development. The Empire finally understood that humanity's warrior nature hadn't made them barbaric. It had made them strong enough to protect peace. As the last images faded, Chief Archivist Black made an announcement that would have been unthinkable months ago. "These records will be mandatory study for all Imperial citizens. We must learn from humanity's history, or we risk becoming nothing more than a cautionary tale in someone else's." 6 months after the first contact, the Imperial capital looked very different. Defense platforms orbited the once unprotected planet. Patrol ships moved in tactical formations rather than ceremonial patterns. The beautiful golden buildings now housed command centers and training facilities. In the newly established Joint Defense Command, Council Leader Gold stood before a mixed audience of human and Imperial officers. The ceremonial robes of the past were gone, replaced by a practical uniform designed with human assistance. "Today marks a new chapter in our history," he announced. "For 10,000 years, we thought peace meant the absence of weapons. Humanity taught us that real peace means being strong enough to protect it." The main display behind him showed the results of their learning. Imperial ships, now properly armed and armored, conducted joint exercises with human vessels. The differences in their appearances were striking. The humans' battleships were gray and practical, while the Imperial ships maintained some of their golden color beneath their new armor. "They've kept their identity while adding strength," Admiral Thomas remarked to Ambassador White, who now served as the chief diplomatic liaison between humans and the Empire. "That's more important than most people realize." A live feed showed the graduation ceremony of the first class of Imperial military officers trained under human guidance. Captain Purple, who had struggled so much in early simulations, now led his crew with confidence. His ship, the Imperial defense vessel New Dawn, demonstrated combat maneuvers that would have been impossible months ago. "Watch this," General Stone said proudly, switching the display to a recent incident. An unknown aggressive ship had appeared in Imperial space, probably a pirate testing their defenses. Instead of the easy target they expected, they found a transformed Empire. 3 Imperial patrol ships responded with perfect coordination, using human tactics to disable and capture the intruder without a single shot fired. "They learned the most important lesson," Admiral Thomas noted. "The best warriors are the ones who can win without fighting." In the shipyards orbiting the capital, new vessels took shape. They combined Imperial beauty with human practicality. Powerful engines hidden beneath elegant hulls, weapon systems integrated into graceful designs, and shield generators that could withstand real attacks while maintaining their aesthetic appeal. We found a balance, Council Member Silver said, watching the construction. We didn't lose ourselves by learning from humanity. We became more than we were. The ceremony continued as Council Leader Gold activated another display. It showed the signing of the Human Imperial Defense Treaty. Under its terms, humanity would continue helping the Empire build its defenses, while the Empire would share its vast knowledge of peaceful development and cultural preservation. Our strengths complement each other, Ambassador White explained to the audience. Humans know war so well that they understand the importance of peace. We knew peace so well that we had to learn about war to protect it. The display shifted to show something remarkable. An Imperial ship using its new capabilities to protect a smaller civilization from aggressive raiders. The Empire had gone from being vulnerable to becoming a protector of others. That's the real victory, General Stone said quietly. They're not just defending themselves, they're helping others learn the same lessons. As the ceremony concluded, a new alert came in. Long-range sensors, designed by humans and built by the Empire, had detected signs of a large aggressive force at the edge of known space. In the past, this would have caused panic. Now, the response was calm and professional. Captain Purple's ship, the New Dawn, moved to investigate along with human escorts. The Empire that would have once hidden behind ceremonial shields now stood ready to face any threat. We're ready, Council Leader Gold said firmly. Whatever's out there, we're ready. Admiral Thomas smiled. Yes, you are. And you did it without losing what made you special in the first place. The final display showed the new Imperial motto, written in both human and Imperial languages. Peace through strength, strength through understanding. As the ceremony ended, the combined human and Imperial fleet conducted a flyby. The Imperial ships still gleamed gold in the sunlight, but now their beauty was backed by power. They had learned humanity's most important lesson, that true peace isn't found in weakness, but in being strong enough to protect everything you value. We warned them to run, Ambassador White mused, watching the fleet. Instead, they learned to stand. Perhaps that's the greatest victory of all.